Welcome to another webinar under this new name called Love Your Menses and Your Health, a conversation with Sister Docs. Today, we're going to be talking about tips for building your relationship with your children. My name is Dr. Azumah. I'm the host and moderator of this webinar. Thank you for coming, and we're going to open this conversation shortly. We will do that with a presentation. Okay. Let me just add here. All right. So again, my name is Dr. Azumah. I'm a board certified OBGYN. And today I am standing as the co-founder and president of Love Your Menses, which is a part of this organization bringing this webinar today. Okay. And I have my amazing vice chair of Love Your Menses, amazing woman. She's a board certified pediatrician. She's an ADHD and autism specialist. She does a lot. She also owns her own nonprofit organization. But the most important thing here is she released this beautiful book. She's going to tell you the title, but love letters, I guess I said the love letters of children, right? Something like that. But she would tell
Children's
you.
love letters.
Children's love letters. Thank you. Children's love letters. Yes, I didn't know the title. I didn't memorize it. But again, this is an organic webinar. However, I read the book and I love it. I really love it. And I read a part whereby Daniel writes a letter to his dad. Or I don't know. Let me pull it up because it's really good. Do you remember this? Yes, it's Daniel. Chapter
Okay.
4.
Yeah.
Chapter 4. Daniel
Uh-huh.
talks about love is dancing, and it's such a beautiful letter to his dad because I guess the dad just danced with him. And then another one that stood out was even chapter 3, when the young lady, I believe, was talking to Chloe, was talking to mommy about her experience and everything. The book is just so phenomenal. I'm so proud of you for writing it, and I'm just excited to have this conversation with you. So we're going to begin by you saying a little bit about yourself and what motivated you to write this book. Oh
Yes.
yes.
Thank you so much, Dr. Zuma. Always a pleasure to talk with you. And hello, everyone listening. Yes. So, like she said, the name of the book is Children's Love Letters, the Pediatrician's Guide to How Your Child Spells Love. So I'll tell you how I got inspired to write this book. Was I was seeing a little boy, his age and name, all of that's different for privacy purposes. So we'll call him a 4-year-old little boy I saw, right? And in my clinic, and they brought him in for me to see him because he had just been hurt at the last foster care home he was in. And so imagine this with me. This is a little 4-year-old that has been in 10 foster homes in 6 months. So I don't know if you can imagine that, but it's unimaginable to me because you're 4, you've been taken out from the only home you know, and now you're in 10 different strangers' homes and they're not treating you right. And now you're in the doctor's office. So they came in, and the person who brought him in told me, well, he needs ADHD meds. He has ADHD. And I was like, well, I think I'm the doctor, right? Supposed to diagnose the ADHD. But anyways, I was paying attention to his behavior. So he would run up and down, like literally bouncing off walls. But then the interesting thing was he would come up to me and give me a hug, right? So in a span of 15 minutes that I spent in that room, he gave me at least 10 hugs. So, and that stood out to me for sure. And I heard myself saying to this caregiver, I don't think he has ADHD. I think he needs a home that loves him. And as I was saying it, I was thinking, are you crazy? Where did you get that from? And the guy, of course, had the are you crazy look on your face too. And I was like, yeah, I mean it. So please do your best to find him a home where we know is a stable home, a home where they are known to care for kids. So fast forward 6 months, I saw my little friend again. And so this time I got one hug because the rest of the time he was sitting on the laps of his foster dad and he was calling him dad. and the foster dad had him, like, was holding him, like hugging him, but there was no more running up and down, bouncing off the wall. So that made me think, like, wait. So the only difference is that he was in a loving home. Does that mean two things? ADHD trauma can show up as, or trauma can show up as like bouncing off the walls and hyperactivity. And the other thing is, does love really change kids that much? And so that led me on a journey to finding out more about trauma and ADHD and how it affects our brains, but also this whole love thing, right? I mean, yes, we talk about love and everybody talks about love, but really, I wanted to do a deeper dive into how does it really, what does it really mean, and how as parents, because I'm a mommy of three kids, right? And I'm the first one to tell you I haven't arrived, and parenting is a journey, and there's no manuals, no matter how much you know. In pediatrics, I promise they did not teach us how to be parents. So we're all finding out along with everybody else. So, but I had this God idea. I call it a God idea because I know that's where the inspiration came from, was to take the letters of the alphabet and write short stories and or letters from kids to parents and vice versa, and just describing the many ways that kids spell love. Because in my little friend's case, he spells love as attention, as being taken care of, well, and his behavior improved, and it seemed like he was on track to do well, which, as I later saw him, he was. So all of these things do make a difference in how we show up in the world, and so that was my inspiration for writing the book. So
Wow. Go
yeah,
ahead. Go ahead. I
no,
mean,
go ahead. Did you want to say something? That's fine.
do you remember? I don't know if you remember this, but you've been to multiple webinars with me where I was the moderator, and I shared that story because you told me that in private. I think last year when we were talking about children, and I think that's when we were talking about suicide prevention,
Hi.
which was a year ago. I was
Right.
like, "Can you give me permission to share this publicly?" And we shared that. And 1 year later, you're here with a book about that. Do you remember? Do you
Yeah,
remember?
I do. I remember I've shared it before with you. Yes, I do
Yes,
remember.
yes. Yeah,
Yeah.
because I just, when you told me the story in private, we are friends, it was just amazing to see how we're both doctors and clinicians, obviously, and thank the Lord we're both certified. At least we've reached that level. And we know that medicine is important, but we also know that there's more to it. Medicine, like education, is the baseline, but parenting involves a lot. And like you said, and you're about to share some slides with us, some didactics, the parenting is not easy. And those of us that have younger children, we're realizing that that's the case. I
Mhm.
go to my older mentors with successful children. I say, wow, you guys didn't tell us how hard it is. Like, why didn't you sit down and say, Barry, having a kid that's successful is not easy. It means a
Right.
lot of sacrifice. When you
Right.
come home from your long day at work, you're sitting down to do homework. When you want to lie down, you're driving them to this camp. You're
Right.
doing this and you're doing that. Like parents don't, I don't know, maybe it's me, maybe it's our culture. I have a Nigerian culture, but they don't share how not easy it is because most of us think like success is handed to them. Because you, like me, I would say, we became successful on our own. Like we worked really hard ourselves to get to where we were. But I did not know that for the next generation to be successful, I have to do even more work than was done on me. And it's just really interesting. I just wish more parents would share their experiences on raising successful children so that we know one, it's not easy. I don't know why I was naive. I thought it would be. And so that we could be prepared. So thank you, Dr. Echo, for the work. And that book is so phenomenal. Congratulations for being
Thank
Amazon #1 bestseller. That book
you.
is just awesome. Like that book is so like wow. I'm proud of you. I really am. I'm so proud of you. Okay,
Thank
continue
you.
with your presentation. Good job, though.
And I was gonna say that sounds like the title of a new book. Like, how do you raise a successful child?
No, no, please do let it be a sequel to this one,
Oh
How
my
to Raise a
goodness.
Successful Child, because
Yeah.
it's not easy. Like, please do not minimize the success of children,
Right.
because it takes a lot of work for their parents to make it happen. Especially in the United States. I have
Right.
a background in Nigeria. I think in
Yeah.
Nigeria it might be a little bit easier. I am not minimizing the hard work of Nigerians. It's just there's more family, at least those of us that are not transplant here. We don't have as many family members as we would have had in Nigeria. But in Nigeria, my mom wasn't really there because she worked. But
Right.
we have systems that ensured that I did well in school.
Yep.
But I just don't get it. But you know what? Even if I don't get it, I'm going to learn how to get it. See, that's what life is about, learning what you need to know. Back to
Yes.
you, Dr. Nicole.
I think it's important to note. I mean, I also grew up in Nigeria. There's that whole support that you're referring to because I don't. My parents were both busy academics. I don't even remember them sitting with me to do homework. Well, first of all, I was in a boarding school and all that, but even in elementary school, because there was always somebody to help you out, either older siblings or just somebody, right? Because your parents were so busy. Like,
Yeah.
well, in my case, so yeah, but then there was also that expectation that you will do well. Like it wasn't even a thing not to do well. I mean, I feel like we came out of the cradle knowing we're supposed to do
You
well.
know what? And I think Dr. Echo, we should speak to the immigrant population, especially the immigrants of West Africa, especially the immigrants from Africa. The way we are raised in Nigeria, especially in terms of academics, is not the same here. You cannot let your child figure it out on their own.
Nope.
If you want a successful child, you have to invest your time. I do understand that most Africans have to work two, three jobs to pay bills and to take care of their village back home. But in the end, you do all of that and your child is not successful, then
Right.
it falls back at you. And those people that you're helping will be the first to laugh at you that you failed. So
Mhm.
when we are doing so much as African immigrants, trying to help everyone, we need to take a pause and invest in our kids.
Yeah.
Sometimes you have to give up the wealth. I'll give you an example, Dr. Echo. People ask me, how you doing? I said, I'm perfect. They look at me like, you're perfect? How you perfect when, one, you drive a very old car, you do this, you do that. But you know what? I'm perfect in my own situation. Like
Right.
I say, I don't say years anymore. I say summers. I'm not going to want a life that is so different or to
Mhm.
cry over a life that I think I should have. When
Right.
I have what, 50 more summers,
Hmm.
time does not, there's not, we don't have enough time to
No.
complain. I just have to enjoy my perfection. And that's what I do.
Yes.
And I ask parents of immigrants, because that's who I take care of as a clinician, a lot of immigrants.
Right.
Welcome to the United States, but there's a skill set to be successful here, especially your children. Most
Mm.
of us that come here, we are hardworking, we are very motivated, but those are skills that we inherently picked up. But
Right.
our kids don't have that. Our kids
Right.
have to be taught that. So you have to, as a parent, invest time to make sure that works. Thank you,
Yes.
Dr. Emily.
No, you're absolutely. Oh, I love this. You're absolutely right because that was such an important point you made about letting go of the wealth. I'm going to put quote unquote because your car you drive does not define you. The house you live in does not define you. Doesn't mean don't strive to be the best, but not at the expense of your family. Because yes, you're absolutely right. In summers, I have 4 more summers with my big girl, and I'm like, oh my God, what am I doing? So it's like being intentional about capturing that time and we as parents understanding who we are and not and comparison is the death of anything good or progress in your life because the car and the house is not success when this is not being passed on to your children, right? Like your mindset is not being passed on because you just don't have the time to. So yeah.
Yeah, Dr. Echo, let me share an example. And then some of us, especially those of Christian faith. Sometimes we even put our faith in before our kids, and that too should be done in a balanced way.
Right.
I would share a story. I was going on Sunday to church with my daughter. She
Mm.
looked sad. She looked
Right.
very sad. She looked sad, and I looked at her. She was sad. You know what we did? We stopped. We went home and we had a conversation. Like, what is going on? What is hurting? What is this? What is that? And kids to me are like sponges, and they have
Mhm.
so many things put into their head. Their head is like a sponge analogy.
Right.
That's not the brain. We know what the brain looks like. We're physicians. So we put so much. And your duty as a parent, right, Dr. Echo, is to delete stuff that's not supposed to be there. And the
Right.
only way to delete the stuff that's not supposed to be there in a child's mind is to have a conversation with the child, right? To know what is in their head. So
Right.
I talk to my daughter. I kind of help her regroup herself. And then we say, come, let's go to church. And then we go to church. We were late. And I don't know. I think someone was like, why are you guys late? I look at my daughter. I say, you know why we were late? She's like, yes, I do. I said, why were we late? She said, because you wanted to make sure I was emotional. Like, she didn't use the word emotional, but I needed your attention. I feel, yes, I went late. My parents, sorry, mom, would have said, come to church. Let's go to church. They wouldn't even have cared about my feelings. But with these children, Dr. Echo, would you say that we need to invest? Like, there's no shortcut to
No.
parenting of this generation. The
No.
shortcut that our parents use, God bless them, I love my mom, I love my dad, is not going to work. You got
Mm-mm.
to be a hands-on parent. So,
Yes.
I'll give you the floor. Good intro, right? To continue on.
No,
Thank
we
you.
could go on this topic forever because I was actually thinking the same thing on the way as I was driving to get home. And I was like, wow, that, yeah, the whole emotional thing, it's almost like tough it up, right? Or maybe our parents weren't like how my mom would describe my dad. He was very like, the disciplinarian, and it was almost like we're scared of him, but not exactly, but not that close kind of relationship. It's like there's differences in culture, in environment, in all of that, because that's how he was raised, right? Because that's what my mom said. Like he didn't really have a lot of affection or all that emotional stuff, right? So therefore that's how he raises his kids because that's what he knows. So when we know better, we do better, and it's a balance, right? It's not like we it's a balancing act because we also have to be firm as parents, but also at the same time be open to hearing them out and understanding what's going on with them. So well done, Ebere. Yes, because at the end of the day, God is going to ask you what happened with your kid, right?
Yes, yes. Not the number of days I went to
Times you
church.
went to
Yes,
church on time. Yes.
yes,
So,
yes, ma. Yes, ma. Hmm. Thank you,
yeah.
doc.
Okay. So I'm gonna go ahead and start. So I titled this "The Power of a Love Infusion" because I went to a program a few months ago, and the person was talking about infusion and just what that word means, and so I was like, huh, when I was trying to figure out what I was going to talk about today, that came to mind. And so I titled it The Power of Love Infusion, and we'll find out why in a few mm, minutes. So, what's love, right? Good question. And feel free to chime in, Dr. Zuba. So, it's a question of what love is. Love is, I mean, that everybody has a different meaning to what love is for them. And the question we're answering with the book is what is love to your child, right? So love
Mhm.
is things like you wouldn't even believe. Like she pointed out, love is dancing, because when you spend the 2 minutes you do responding to your child, if they are dancing and they say look at me, or they say come dance with me, and you do that even for a minute, it build that's love to them, because number one, you've given them your attention, you've put your face away from what you were doing, put down your phone, you've done something with them, and so it fills up their love tank. It makes them feel seen, which is a big need for kids, right? They want to feel seen and they want to feel heard. And the other example she talked about was love is courage. Is like how whenever your children face situations, the way you respond to them, they see, and or you build up their courage in themselves, right, in their abilities to either execute something. So that's a way they see love as well. And so, Dr. Zuma, do you have any, what would you say love is for yourself or for your child?
Um, I think love is creating a safe space. We all have our own biases.
Right.
We are we are an accumulation of experiences, and just so everyone has a different way of seeing things.
Right.
So we have our own culture, especially those people that are immigrants like me. We have our own culture, and then or those that are mixed, meaning that I came here as a younger girl and now I'm a woman. It's just different.
Okay.
So as I raise a child, I have to put aside my own cultural belief to listen to her and to create a safe space. A safe space to me means like no matter what, even if you do something that's contrary to my culture, to my mixed culture, to my religious background, to my career, I would listen because I want my role to you as a child to be safe, that you can tell me anything, anything. Because I feel as both as physicians, a lot of kids rebel because it's a cry for help, right? They're crying for
Yes.
help, or they build a resilience towards their parents that once they are 15, 16, to me, Dr. Echo, you are the expert here. You can't really talk to them anymore because you've missed many summers building their love language.
Yes. Yes. Absolutely right. Yes, but thank goodness it doesn't mean it can be reclaimed, but it will take more patience and more intentionality on your part as a parent to recover the times that you have missed, if that's the case for you. So yes, that's wonderful. Love is a safe space.
Yes.
So this is the analogy I wanted to share. Say we're tea bags, and it doesn't look like the video. Oh, the video is not playing, but okay, there we
Oh,
go. So we're tea bags, right? So we, the parents, are tea bags, right? And the water is our environment. Do you see what happens? The water was clear at the beginning, right? And we got put in the water, right? And do you see how the water has changed to the color of what's inside that tea bag?
yes.
So it's like that's like our lives, our environments. We infuse into our environments, or see, it's not actually what's inside of us infuses into our environment. So say the water is our kids, right? So what's inside of us will infuse into our kids. So now the question is, what's inside of us? So it goes back to us as parents. So what flavor is in our tea bag? What flavor tea bag are you? Are you a tea bag filled with lots of resentment or comparison about where you should be or should not be in life, or anger? Or are you a tea bag filled with joy and peace,
Wow.
reminding yourself that you have only 18 summers with this kid, and that you can, even though you just want to just do the thing to them and you can't even believe they're acting like this, can we stop ourselves and be aware of what we are infusing into them through our behavior, our words, our looks, our lack of attention, and all of that? So the question is, what flavor of tea bag are you? So that's a question I want all of us to ask ourselves. I ask myself that too.
Wow. Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. That's a good analogy. What flavor of tea bag are you? I like it.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you. So the next, so in the same vein, we ask ourselves, oh, I'm sorry, who is a parent, right? So what exactly does that word mean? And yes, typically it means you're a parent if you have a child that you gave birth to, but not necessarily, right?
Mm-hmm.
That a parent really is somebody who provides a safe environment for a child. A parent is someone who is caring, is nurturing, somebody who will bring the discipline when they need to, someone who provides nutrition for the child. So all of those things, I mean, all of those things are key. There's research that shows that, especially when you're talking about trauma, children that are traumatized need just one safe adult in their life and they will do better versus the ones that don't have any. So it's not even as much as we're not looking for perfection in the sense of we want the family to look the way we would love it to look. But if you're that one adult in your child's life or in any other child's life, can you be that one who will be loving and caring and nurturing to that child? And that's who a parent is. It doesn't have to be biological. So that being said, wherever we go as adults, as parents, and we see other children, if we have that mindset that, I mean, of course, it's not like there's boundaries and all of that. We understand, but even going back to the our Nigerian upbringing, right? I'll tell you a story. My brother was playing. I hope he doesn't hear this. He took my parents' car and was driving and crashed the car. Our neighbor saw the crash. Do you know this neighbor got him out of the car and gave him a spanking before my parents came home? And then when my parents came home, marched him to my parents and reported him. So it's like there's more people looking out for your kid. I mean, I'm not advocating that somebody else spanks your child, but I'm just saying that's how it was at home. Like the neighbors were also parents to us, and they could discipline us and look out for us within reason, of course. So, um, so I just wanted to leave that thought with us that we should see other children around us because we often don't know what the children are going through, right? They may be smiling and be going through some serious trauma, or not doing well, and it's a matter of, like Ebere did with her daughter, asking the questions. So it's not what's wrong with that child, it's also what's going on with the child. So if you switch that question around, instead of I can't believe this child, instead ask the question what's going on with the child, and there you're more likely to get the answers that will help the child. And it may just be something small, they need a hug, they just may need somebody to actually look at them in the eyes and say it's going to be okay, and you could be that person for them. Now it doesn't mean you've officially become their parents, but that's who a parent is. And so I just wanted to share that.
Yeah, let me chime in and say, um, I live in Maryland right now, and the community I live in, we my daughter has so many parents, and I love it. And not everyone can live in Maryland. No, not everyone can live in the DC area. Obviously, it could be pricey for some. Some people have to live further away, where they might not have that closeness with their neighbors. But I have to say, Maryland reminds me, the DC DMV area reminds me of Nigeria, whereby my Hispanic neighbor watches out for my daughter. Like the other day, we were together, me and a close friend, Hispanic, and we were with three girls, and one of the girls was misbehaving. And my friend, Adelita, was like, "No, you're not going to do that." It made it, she took it upon herself
Right.
to discipline, verbally correct the child, and the child behaved well. And
Mhm.
it was just beautiful. And that's one thing I love about this area. Again, I've lived in so many
Right.
states, but I have to say, like Maryland, DC, Virginia, there's just some close relationship that it's nice.
Yeah,
Um,
that's
I'm
wonderful.
so glad I decided to leave upstate New York to move to the Maryland area, because I could say my child is being raised in a culture of like giving, and of being raised by multiple parents, quote unquote.
Right. Yes. Okay, and then the other question I have for you is, who is your source? So that's important because as human beings, we all need, I mean, human beings and adults, we definitely cannot share love in any of the forms with anyone else, even our own kids, unless we really fill ourselves up as well. So the question is, how do you do that? And where does your source of strength, where does your source of joy, where does your source of peace, where does it come from? It's important for us to recognize that, because that helps us go the distance, right? And that helps us through the ups and the downs, which for sure parenting has. I mean, even life by definition is a series of ups and downs, and so is parenting. So it's important for us to recognize who our source is. My source is God. So the question is, who's yours? So um that's important, so that you can always fill yourself up, so you can continue to share love and peace, and infuse your environment, right? So
Yeah. Dr. Echo, let's expand the source a little bit. So your source is your religious affiliation. Again, this is not just for people that affiliate with a religion, but people's sources could be meditation. People's source could be exercise. They're different source. Whatever you go to give you comfort, to re-energize you, so that you become a better parent. It's just important. We are both coaches. It's just important to identify, what do they call it? It's not triggers. You identify your triggers to know to avoid it. But they said you should also identify your, what is it called? It starts with a T. Tickles. Anything that tickle
yes,
you. So
yes,
so identify your source, so that you, whenever you're frustrated, you can go to that source to comfort you, so that you could be a good parent. There's no one that can give from an empty cup.
yes, absolutely right. Thank you for expanding on that. Yeah, you're right, because I mean, yes, God is my source, but in every facet of my life, I have to, in the major areas of life like fun and family and health, you have to identify what you can do to be the best version of yourself. So like me, I love to go to the mountains and the lake nearby. I call it my happy place. So whenever I've had a long week, actually I've made it my date. I take myself there once a week just so I can refuel. I just sit there in silence and just watch the nature, and it's so beautiful and peaceful. And I come back and I feel much better than I went there. So that's what we mean, is just find what is it, identifying your areas of your life and identifying the things that will help you boost your life in that area. Yes. And so, of course, because I am all in love with the brain, actually, my other name is the Happy Brain Pediatrician, because I love to
Yeah.
talk about the brain so much. So, the infusion of love for sure boosts the brain, the health of your brain. That's for sure. Because your brain is an organ, but that organ also happens to run your whole body, right? So, love is such a powerful thing that it will actually, people who are loving, people who are able to forgive others, people who are able to walk through their anger, they're healthier than those who hold on to anger. Actually, for unforgiveness, anger, resentment, all of those things will actually kill you slowly from the inside out, literally. So if you want your brain to be healthy, if you want your life to be better, then you have to take care of the health of your brain. And your brain for sure loves to be loved. So without going into all my brain health thing, I just wanted to remind you. So it does affect every part of you, especially the important organ that runs you.
I
So
love it. I love it. Love it.
yeah. And so you asked the question, how are we supposed to do this, right? And it's
Mhm.
three things I broke it down to. So number one is awareness, right? Spending
Mhm.
the time to look at where we are, what's filling our tea bags. Are there things we need to swap out in our tea bags? We all do have things we have to swap out, but we have to be aware of them, or even choose to acknowledge them, right? Sometimes it's easier to avoid things or ignore things that we know are not right. And it can be difficult to, or painful to even address things, but it definitely helps you as a person, and for you to be able to take care of your children when you are aware of the things you need to swap out in your tea bag, and you can do that. And when you're aware, that leads to intentional change, or it makes it even easier to change. Change is a process to change. What's the research? It takes at least 30 days of doing something for you to be able to change a habit. But it's possible. We're not stuck with the brains we have. We can change things. But of course, start with wanting to do it, right? First being aware of the issue, then deciding that we are going to make the changes. So if it's we decide we will from now on put down our phones when our child is talking to us and look them in the eye, give them eye contact, and that way they feel heard. You actually hear what they're saying,
Mhm.
you can respond appropriately, they feel seen, and they actually will behave better and be more likely to listen to you when you listen to them. So as
Yes.
parents, we have to take the first step. As much as we want the kids to automatically obey us, it doesn't work that way. It definitely helps when we show them that they're important enough for us to pay full attention to them. That was just one example. And of course, taking the action. So the action is what we just talked about. Taking the action of putting our phones down, because the phone thing, I'm talking about it because it has become such an issue. I mean, there are people sitting in my office and they're on the phone, and I'm trying to talk to them, and I'm like, wow. If I'm the doctor and I'm trying to talk to you, the parent, about your precious child, and you can't put that phone down for 2 seconds for me to talk, then I can't imagine their kids probably talking to them and they're not listening either. So that's such an important thing. And so now more than ever before, we see two people out and they're both on their phones. So
Mhm.
it's just being intentional about that. It seems small, but it's a really big thing, because even if it's another adult you're talking to, the other adult also wants to know that you're paying attention. Listening seems like we're losing that skill. I don't want to be pessimistic, but that's why we're talking about it now. So if we can, even if that's the one thing we start with, I guarantee you it will make such a difference, because children, believe it or not, sometimes they behave in ways to get our attention negatively. Sometimes they behave negatively to get our attention. So as parents, I often tell my parents and I tell myself, which one do I want? The positive behavior or the negative? So if I want the positive, I'm going to give them the attention, at least of course within limits,
Mhm.
and appropriately too, so that they are more likely to behave in the way that they should, which of course is a good habit for them to form. So you
Doc,
have
let's stay on this slide for a little bit.
okay.
Um, a lot of us are busy working mothers. Um, so I don't know if you've done the study, or no, if you've read the study, quality time versus quantity time. We belong to multiple physician communities, and we hear physician women complain about the guilt of not spending exuberant amount of times with your children compared to like a stay-home mother.
Mhm.
So what's your take? Some people have said, and I think I reviewed a study, can't remember where it's from, where it says that children raised with busy mom that spend quality time was equivalent to children that were raised with non-busy parents. So what's your take on that?
Yeah, absolutely. It goes right back to what I was saying, because even if it's 5 minutes of you putting down your phone or whatever it is you're doing and actually looking at your kid or looking at what they're trying to show you, or making a comment about their schoolwork, that's better than zero, right? Or that they're talking to you and you're looking somewhere else and you're like, yeah, 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 and just buzz them off. So that's, even though it may be 1 minute, is quality time versus none, right? Or even if you're there but you're not present. So there's something about being present that creates that quality of time that children really really need, and they're desperate for it. So yes, so I would say I agree with that. Quality time is important.
Wow, that's awesome. And then the second point here is I love this AIA acronym: awareness, intentional change, and action. And the title will be positive parenting. tips for positive parenting. So for awareness is a difficult thing. It takes time to be aware. Um, it takes time, right? It takes time looking in the mirror and looking for all those blemishes that you see. It takes time. A lot of people do not spend time doing that. And if you decide that you want to be more aware about yourself, be ready to break down because you're going to see things in you that you don't want and you don't like. But in any situation, Dr. Echo joining, you have to be aware to be able to change, because if you're not aware, you cannot change. And those of us in medicine, we are more aware because if we're not, we'll get a feedback from somebody. Our entire career revolves on feedbacks. As a
Yeah.
medical student, you got feedback from your teacher, you got feedback from dissertation, you got feedback from the residents, you got feedback from the attending
Right.
as a resident, you got feedback from your senior residents, you got feedback. Like we are so used to getting feedbacks
Mhm.
that it's easier. But in the real corporate world, in the real world, people don't give you feedback, they just fire you.
Right.
So I've made it a point to always be more aware so that one, if you criticize me, it's not new because I already know that whatever it is exists. But two, it allows me to be a better version of myself. What are your thoughts on
Yeah,
awareness?
I completely agree. And the interesting thing is that we get feedback even from our kids. They will
Mhm.
tell us if we're willing to listen when we're off, when we're doing something we shouldn't be doing. Now, the question is, what are we going to do about it, right? And so,
Mhm.
like in the book, I talk about love is Zen, and in there, I talk about the redo. As growing up as in Nigeria, that was not something we did. Like you, in fact, you're even too afraid to even point anything out. But I feel like maybe in our own way we did. But in this environment, yes, because the children are trained at school to question things, right, and all of that. And sometimes, for example, I've told the kids, okay, we don't yell in this house, and then I yell because I'm not perfect. I'm working so hard. I'm totally better than I was last year. And that's because I decided I was going to work on the intentional change, right? So, but the few times I will slip up, my 6 year old will be like, Mom, you said no yelling. Then, so now I have a choice, right? Am I going to shut her down and be like, you don't tell your mother anything? Or my other choice is, you're right. Mommy is sorry she yelled. Mommy is really working hard and not yelling, right? Because then that tells her mommy can acknowledge and can turn it around, right? Can acknowledge that she did something wrong and she can do something better. And that's teaching her an important skill she needs, right? Because I hear her like when she's having an argument with her brother, and then I say, okay, so let's do a redo. They are more now, they like willingly do it. And like they stop, they think, they're like,
Mhm.
okay, I didn't do the right thing. Okay, I'm sorry. Can I then they speak in a nicer way or they redo what's in the right way, right?
Yes.
So that's one example for me. At first it was like, what?
Mhm. Yeah, yeah.
Because of the way
Yes.
I was raised. But then I had to be like, yeah, my kid is teaching me. She's like pointing it out to me. So that was my choice. So yeah,
Wow,
that's
that's a good one. Okay, carry on, Doc. Mhm.
okay. So yeah, actually, that's the end of it. I didn't want to make it too long. So those were the highlights of
Um,
of what I wanted to share with us today. Yeah.
wow. I always like to have a take home, and there's so many messages here. The children's love letter. I love the motivation behind the story. The motivation of that 4-year old that was acting out, seeking attention, what really was looking for love. Thank you for reminding us, and thank you for allowing us using your book. Do you have your book to hold it up so that we can see it,
Oh,
please?
yes, I have. Oh, it didn't show. Hold on. Yes, I can hold up my book. It's right here.
Yeah.
You see it?
Yes, yes, yes. You know what? I would recommend turn it
What?
in. I know you have some reflections, but you can turn this into a 30-day workbook for positive parenting, you know,
That's a
because
great idea.
you can then decide to like have once a day, once a day, let's remove this. You could do once a day web activity or something, or once a week. You can even turn it just some for parents. Okay, today I'm going to do Love is Dancing. So I'm going to focus on dancing. It's a beautiful book. There's so many angles you can
Right.
take with that book. So yeah, and it's simple. Just use your reflection, and you know how to do it. I think that would be a good workbook, and I
Yeah.
can see people buying it to like help their relationship. Like you talked about restoration. I love how you say love is zen, and how children give us feedback. So this is just a good conversation, especially those of us that did not grow up in a very affectionate environment. Our parents love us, but they love us differently. And us, most immigrants, so people that came from another country, parenting is different for us. We have to
Yeah.
relearn, we have to combine both cultures. So thank you, Dr. Echo. It's always a beautiful time to have
Yes.
you on the platform, on this space with me. I greatly appreciate you. I talk to you all the time. Thank you for the work you've done with Love Your Menses and for Love Your Menses. We are grateful to have you as our vice chair as we go globally, empowering the youth. Right now, Love Your Menses is in 7 different countries. I'm empowering the girl child. We do it with passion because we know that, yes, we might not be their biological parent, but we are called to be a positive parent to them. So,
Right.
we viewers, I want to say thank you again. Help me thank Dr. Echo. Please support her.
Thank
Go buy
you.
the book. The book is phenomenal. I think for the
Thank you.
next few years, I'm going to be buying this book as a gift to parents, new parents as well, because this is
Thank
such a
you.
good book. And please get the workbook. Maybe we can use it in one of our postpartum classes, right? As a
Oh, yeah.
parenting training workshop, and how parents can learn to love their kid. With that said, I want
Thank
to thank
you.
our viewers. Continue to support Love Your Menses. You can learn more about us by visiting www.loveyourmenses.com. All right, so we wanted to also share that the flu season and COVID season is on its way. So we want most of you to be safe. We want most of us to be safe, right? We want all of us, not even most of us, to be safe. One way is to wash your hands. The other way is to wear a mask, especially if you're going near someone that is sick. Another way is to get the vaccine. I recently got my flu vaccine. I got it from one of the drugstores. It was free because I had insurance. The same way there's the COVID booster. Now you just have to get one dose. You don't need to have like multiple doses. Children above 6 to above can get that one vaccine. So if you go to our website, we're going to have a QR code whereby you can scan to know where you can get your next COVID vaccine. And guess what? You can get a free COVID test at home. Let's say your child has cold-like symptoms and you're trying to protect the environment. Just follow the instruction, quick read, and check your child for COVID so that we do not spread the virus and cause a catastrophe like we did in 2019. With that said, thank you so much. Thank you, Love Your Menses staff. Thank you again. This is Love Your Menses and Your Health, a conversation with a sister doc. And today we have Dr. Echo, who is a sister doc, a board certified pediatrician with us. Thank you. Thank you for what you do. Go
Thank
support
you.
her. Thank you. Now we're going to end.